was raised as a woman, won the world championships in track, but then was subsequently disqualified. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe she was disqualified because her gender wasn't portrayed accurately, because they did these different tests and found out that she was in fact a man, genetically, XY chromosomes. So that's an example of someone who's in hermaphrodite. Yeah?
Doesn't the book, because I read this chapter last week, doesn't the book discuss that in many cases it has to do with it's a developmental issue?
Yes.
Developmental issue?
Yeah, it's a biological developmental issue. Most of the time, there are cases, and I don't know if you remember reading this in the book, where it was a little boy who was getting a circumcision done, and they messed up and cut it all off. And so the parents are going, what do we do now? Our son no longer has male genitalia, and they raised him as a girl. Later, when he found out what happened, he actually went back and started identifying as a man, and I believe he got married to a woman, correct?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he got married to a woman.
And
So,
I think what happened was when they cut it off, they did gender reconstruction, so
Yes.
that he had female genitalia. And then when he discovered what had happened, he'd always identified as a man. He did eventually get a sex change back.
yeah. So when they messed up, they had given him sex assignment to have female-looking genitals, and then when he figured it out, he had sex reassignment to go back to being male. Okay, so the last three are actually really overlapping and are essentially kind of the same thing. So we have someone who's a cross-dresser, a transvestite, or someone who's transgender. Okay, the little video clip that we saw at the beginning of class is probably a very good example of a transvestite or a cross-dresser. Would you agree? All those women that were not women, but looked like women in some cases, especially if they didn't talk. Some of those guys really could pass for women, in my opinion, if you ask me. So, yeah, as long as they didn't talk. Sometimes the talking gave them away a little bit. So, the thing to remember with these three is basically that they're taking on a role that is different than their biological sex. They are taking on a gender identity that does not reflect necessarily their biology. Okay? Does anybody know who this is? Yeah, a couple people know it. This is actually Mariah Carey. She, in this particular situation, maybe could be construed as a transvestite. Would you agree? If you didn't know that this was Mariah Carey in advance, would you have thought that this was a man? Yeah? There is some yeses. So I wanted to use that picture mostly to indicate that transvestites aren't just drag queens. Okay? So the next thing that we're going to be talking about is this intersection between race and gender. Has Dr. Lice talked about the notion of social location in this class? Yes? I heard yes somewhere. So do you want to refresh us on what social location is? Okay, so what he's saying, in case you didn't hear, is that your social location is a compilation of all the different things that create your little tiny niche in society and basically shapes how society interacts with you and how you interact with society. So my social location is that I'm 29, I'm female, I'm a graduate student, I'm from Utah, I'm 5'7", and I'm married. That's not all of it. That's a pretty good percentage of it, okay? So your social location is the intersection of all these different things, and that's going to really shape how people interact with you and how you interact with them, okay? So one of the things to think about when we're thinking about social location is these controlling images that are often associated with people in certain social locations, okay? Patricia Collins actually refers to them as a negative stereotype, and basically said that it was a method of social control. That if you can put somebody in a particular social location or a particular negative stereotype, that you can basically dismiss everything else. That person's the way they are because of they're black or they're white or they're, whatever. Okay? So, what do you think of when you think of, for instance, a black woman? What's the first kind of image that comes to your mind? Right here. I see you looking at me. Oprah. Okay. Somebody that's maybe powerful and maybe a little domineering, perhaps. Okay. Anybody else? that maybe some people would have that kind of controlling image, the angry black woman, right? That's just pissed off at the world because her social location sucks. So does that mean that every black woman out in the world is like this? No. Okay. So what do you think of when you think of a criminal? Now let's be honest. Think of the first thing that pops in your head when you think of a criminal. What does a criminal look like? Come on, otherwise I'll start telling on people. Tattoos. What else? Unkempt. What else? What color are they? What race are they? White?
Oh, they're black.
Black? Black? Someone's being honest. Black.
I'll say it.
All right. And to be real, this does occur a lot. If we're watching the news media, and who is on the news media a lot? Is it the tattooed, unkempt, possibly black or white criminal, or is it the guy that lived in Enron? More often, it's the unkempt, tattooed, devious-looking, sinister guy that's going to jump out of the bushes and scare you, right? It's not the dude in the suit and the tie with, the Donald Trump slick back thing going on. So these are some different controlling images that we have are really going to shape how we see other people and how we see their social location, and how we see their interactions with the rest of the world. Okay, so I wanted to go over a brief history specifically of women, specifically in the United States, because when we think of gender issues, a lot of this does kind of go back to where women have been historically in the United States. Okay, so back in the day, a long time ago, women were actually seen as property. Has anybody heard of the term rule of thumb? So, go ahead and explain it for us.
Wasn't it the immediate right that it had to be with the stick less than
That's right. So the saying goes is that if you were going to beat your wife, it had to be with a stick that was less than the size of your thumb. Okay. Now, to be fair, that little factoid of history has been somewhat contested, and there's some people that say that that's basically an urban myth. But this doesn't take back from the idea that women were basically seen as chattel. Once you got married, the guy owned you, and you didn't own property. So if you were to get divorced, you were essentially left with nothing. Okay. So that's the key point that we wanted to remember, is that women have not always had this autonomy. They weren't always free to go do whatever they wanted. Okay. Also, the idea, of course, is that women weren't given the right to vote until 1920. So that's a pretty big level of disenfranchisement, where you're not even allowed to share your political beliefs via the vote. Your husband essentially was expected to represent you. Okay, ladies, how would you like it if your husband and or boyfriend or brother was to represent you? No? The final thing, Equal Rights Amendment. Does anybody know anything about the Equal Rights Amendment that they want to share? What it is, what happened with it, what would have happened if it had been passed? The Equal Rights Amendment, I believe, was initiated in about 1928, and its purpose was more or less to make sure that both men and women were equally protected under the law. Okay, that's it in a nutshell. Men and women were both equally protected under the law. So there was a lot that went into trying to get this passed. It took a very long time, and then in 1982, it failed to get ratified. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit of a history of how women have been seen and how they're somewhat, to some degree, still seen today, in the sense that there is no equal rights amendment based on sex. Okay. As far as contemporary inequality, we are still seeing some of these effects of previous historical inequality on what's happening today. Okay, so the first thing to take into consideration is right now we have 2 women on the United States Supreme Court. Does anybody know how many women that we've had on the Supreme Court over the last 2 centuries? Total? I mean, total women are on the Supreme Court in the last 2 centuries. 2, unless you count the new one, Judge Sonia Sotomayor. That makes 3. In 2 centuries, we've had 3 women